Previously on Combat School. Bring on the big guns. Soldiers train for Afghanistan.
Right side!
With a full-scale combat operation in the Texas desert.
No mercy. No mercy.
With the real thing just months away, the training gets rougher.
Move back! Move back!
The mistakes more costly.
She brought it up in the front, sir. We're gonna get killed.
For the soldiers of Mike Company, it's now a war of survival. And some of them will not make the cut.
We're out of chances. We're out of time to train soldiers. And if there's one soldier who's going to compromise our welfare, then he's got to go.
CFB Wainwright is a long way from the blistering Texas sun and the harsh discipline of desert training. But the soldiers of Mike Company will soon find out Fort Bliss was nothing compared to the heat they'll feel here on the northern prairie. For the next 2 weeks, every one of them will be wired, watched, and tested as never before.
This is really the culminating exercise. This is the last step, and we call it the confirmation exercise, where we will now throw everything at them to make sure that they're prepped and ready to go into theater.
Major Oberworth!
Major Cale Oberworth is under pressure to prove he's ready to lead Mike Company into battle. So he's counting on his platoon commanders, like John Cox, to give their best performance ever.
He's been a platoon commander, so he knows what's expected and what has to be achieved. So he's able to give me just enough to make sure that I'm still developing and learning things, but still doing my job properly without dropping the ball.
Cox is still young and untested in battle, but after Fort Bliss, he received a promotion. Now, he's Captain Cox.
That's my rank.
It's obvious in everything that he does. He's motivated, he's passionate about his job, and that's important. He's also got the ability to talk to the soldiers on a level that makes sense to them.
It's the same job. Like, I was a platoon commander before. I'm still a platoon commander, so they're still relatively the same job, just a little more pressures and responsibilities as tasks build up.
It's also been a big month for John Cox on the home front. His girlfriend is pregnant. And there's more news.
This is my new fiancée, Alexandra. I just proposed today. I think her words were, "Shiny." You're gonna cry again, aren't you?
No, no, no.
By the time the baby is born, Cox will be packing his kit for Afghanistan. But long before that, he'll face a choice no soldier wants to make.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Wainwright and Exercise Maple Guardian 0801. We've had a bit of a dump of snow here, which has thrown a bit of a wrench into the works, but don't worry. I am encouraging you to think of the snow out there as simulated sand.
What sets Wainwright apart from any training range in the world is the technology. It elevates war games into a whole new universe.
For this exercise, you will be maneuvering against a thinking, reactive enemy, and you are liable to be engaged.
Every soldier and every weapon they carry will be linked to a computer system. Here in the Nerve Center, trainers can watch and record everything that happens on the battlefield. It's called XCON, short for Exercise Control. Think of it as Big Brother.
You can see the power of this thing. We have a godlike view of everything that's going on in the province.
XCON uses the best laser, RF, and GPS technology to monitor up to 3,000 soldiers and vehicles. Big Brother can tell exactly where they are and what they're doing.
This big collection of soldiers here should be where Mike Company is. And as I'm zooming in, you can see how we can actually pick out individual soldiers.
I'm certain there's no other Western force in the world that has the capability to do this right now. Maybe eventually, but right now we're at the leading edge.
This high-tech battlefield is the stage for the final dress rehearsal before Afghanistan. And the soldiers of Mike Company have been working towards this for more than a year. But for a few, this is the end of the line.
Back up! Back up!
He was a bit of a hothead in Fort Bliss. But 19-year-old Evan Sopp showed all the signs of becoming a fine soldier. Now, he's back in civvies. When his comrades head into battle, Sopp will be back home in Brampton, Ontario, working as a bank teller. It's a choice he hated to make.
You know, there's not going to be any other job that I love as much as the Army. And I was right in the thick of it. I was going over there to do my job, and I loved my job.
Sopp felt he had to quit after his mom suffered a heart attack.
He just basically came out and said, I pulled myself off tour. And the first thing I said was, I certainly hope you didn't do that for me. And deep down, I knew it was.
Family comes first no matter what.
If somebody's head's not in it or they have issues at home with their families, which, valid reason. I mean, they need to take care of their families, and there's no harm in that.
Sopp is not the only one who's missing from Cox's platoon. Private Dan Martin is also gone, but not by choice. He went through desert training with the rest of the company in Texas.
You're dead?
But now, he's been reassigned to the pool of soldiers held in reserve in the event of casualties.
I guess my hopes and everything went down a little bit. I joined to do, I guess, Army. So go into combat, go overseas, and do Army things. I can't wait till it's my turn.
Normally, in the general run of a battalion, we can hold on to those soldiers and continue to develop them.
Right on, fellas, let's go. Look up, let's get moving.
But now that we're getting closer to Afghanistan, we can't compromise anymore. This team needs to be the hardest thing to defeat in the battle space. And if there's soldiers out there that make it easy for the enemy to get us, well, they can't be here.
Mike Company also has a new face. Corporal Katie Hodges. She was trained to drive light armored vehicles, but she wanted to get closer to the action.
I mean, being a driver is a good position and I enjoyed it, but I did join up to be a ground soldier, right? I like getting out and getting back into it. You know, I'm tired and I'm sore and my kid's heavy, but it's a lot more exciting.
The team that will go to Afghanistan is set, and every soldier in the company is starting to think about what will happen when the real shooting starts.
Ideally, yes, we love to bring back everybody. Realistically, I don't expect that. If I can minimize those casualties, I will be happy.
I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not afraid of being shot at. I'm afraid for my parents, right? What would happen to them if I got injured or I got killed overseas, how they would deal with that.
I don't think about it much right now, but you know, when we're getting closer to September there, the big question is, and probably everybody thinks about it too, is if we're coming back alive.
We're all nervous about going. If anybody that tells you they're not scared, they're lying to you. Because everybody's got a little bit of nerves going into, obviously going into a combat environment, but we train so much that our training takes over in stressful situations and we should be all right.
But first, they'll have to prove themselves on the simulated battlefield of CFB Wainwright. And Mike Company is about to find out that Big Brother has a nasty streak. It may look like any other military base, but the Canadian Maneuver Training Center is one of the most sophisticated combat schools in the world. Out on the range, there's a replica of the Kandahar Air Base and mock-ups of the Afghan villages that surround it. For the next 2 weeks, the soldiers of Mike Company will be here fighting a virtual war on terror. Before the war games begin, every soldier's gun barrel is rigged with a small arms transmitter, or SAT.
Okay, let's go with one of these mats and they'll zero it in for you. Cheers.
Company Commander Cale Oberworth is first up.
Take aim on the crosshairs.
When he fires, the transmitter sends out a laser beam that mimics the trajectory of a real bullet.
Yep, got it all calibrated. I'm ready to go.
Even the gun barrels on the light armored vehicles, the LAVs, are outfitted with the same transmitters. Every time a shot is fired, it's recorded in exercise control. From here, trainers can watch everything that happens on the battlefield, just like Big Brother. To make it all work, every soldier has to wear a specially designed vest, packed with electronic sensors that tell Big Brother who he is and what's happening to him.
This little device here, we call this a halo. It's the helmet array. That's worn on the soldier's helmet. It tells the vest where it is on the ground. And then through this antenna, it tells us exactly where this particular soldier is and everything else about it.
The system is called Weapons Effects Simulation, WES for short. Here's how it works. The gun is fired. The laser beam follows the path of a real bullet. When the beam hits a target, the receiver in the WES vest sends a signal back to Big Brother.
The vest itself has got a number of IR sensors on it that pick up the shot of a rifle or whatever weapon has been aimed at you. Maybe a grenade has gone off or you've walked into a minefield. It then translates that information into something that's recognizable on the screen as an icon, and it then tells us what's happened to him.
So just huddle in here to make sure everyone can hear and see. I'll be covering West training this morning. We're gonna wound half of you and then we'll swap up afterwards.
If a soldier is hit, it triggers an alarm in his West vest. The computer analyzes where he's been hit and displays the information on the control panel.
It says I got a abdominal wound by my right hip.
Critical wound struck in the face, neck, and head with frag and/or bullets.
I got shot in the left ab.
If the wound is not fatal, a fellow soldier can come to the rescue.
To do the medical treatments, scroll until you see medical treatment. So you hit enter again, and then it'll give you all the options for your medical treatments.
Is there a option on there, remove bullet? I'm just taking some of the frag out, and now I'm going to pressure dress it. Treatment applied.
Good. Saved your life, brother.
Thanks, buddy. I love you, man.
I love you, Johnny boy.
If the wound is critical, a timer on the vest starts running down, telling you how long you have to live.
8 minutes remaining.
And all the information goes straight back to Big Brother.
Well, I got a dead one.
To keep everyone honest, a wounded soldier cannot simply turn off the alarm.
It's pretty annoying, eh? Holy.
Really starting to get to me.
Shut up!
The only way to shut it up is to lie down and stop moving.
You know, I'm just lying here so I don't beep.
He has to stay there until at exercise control we turn it off, or one of the observer controllers who's running the training comes over with his God gun and turns it off.
No, I died. I got blown up. That's my luck, though. Notice that? So I have good vibes for overseas.
But before anyone heads overseas, Big Brother's gonna make sure the last round of training is as rough as possible. Meet the Enemy, a team of mock Taliban fighters.
As of midnight tonight, sir, Yankee 2, 4, and 6 and myself will be in Tanachoy for the op.
Okay, excellent.
They're Big Brother's bad boys.
Are IEDs still running off the same original schedule, sir?
Oh yeah, game's on. We're after them.
Most of these soldiers have been to Afghanistan. They know the enemy, know his tricks and how he fights.
Our guys, our insurgents in particular, they are very, very good. And why shouldn't they be? They're drawn from the same units that these guys come from. They're experienced NCOs, soldiers, officers.
If we were actually Taliban, we would be considered elite.
Every detail is carefully researched and recreated for the exercise.
We've gotten to the point where we even arm our soldiers with the authentic weapons that are seen overseas. And that's everything from RPGs. This is a plastic mock-up. These are authentic AKs, pistols, and of course the ammunition as well. But it's all dummy ammunition.
Using compressed air and baby powder, suicide bombs, and other IEDs are engineered to simulate the real thing, with convincing results. Once the war games start, the trainers will make sure Mike Company's commander has his hands full.
By the time we hit the ground, we'll be in the vicinity of 320 soldiers. It creates some real challenges.
This military base is home to the world's most advanced simulated battlefield. The 200 soldiers of Mike Company are here for their last big training test before heading to Afghanistan. And Major Oberworth, their officer commanding, knows he's under the gun.
While the soldiers will be tested, the real one who's being evaluated here will be myself and my peer group. Does that mean that I'll be challenged? Absolutely.
Tomorrow, he'll lead Mike Company on the first of a series of high-pressure missions.
What we're going to do is a back brief from OC Mike, who has a primary role to play.
Here's the scenario. The Taliban has driven Afghan security forces out of the village of Tanachoy, leaving its citizens vulnerable to the enemy.
The insurgents have taken advantage of that situation to reassert their presence and to start to menace the population, to establish a shadow authority, and to undermine the Afghan government structure.
Major Oberworth has to present his bosses with a strategy to take back Tanachoy. His plan: link up with Afghan forces and move his troops into position with a combination of labs and transport helicopters. Within a couple of hours, they'll have a perimeter set up around the village to seal it off. Next, they'll draw out the civilians and then attack. But here's the twist. He plans to launch a diversionary attack on one side of the village, allowing the Afghan National Army to sneak in the back door.
This is, I would say, an Olympic level operation. There's a lot of variables that we're dealing with, a lot of moving parts in a very short space of time.
To make the mission as realistic as possible, the village will be populated with civilian role players. They've been recruited to stand in for villagers and local dignitaries. Like the soldiers, they're outfitted with West vests and trained for the exercise.
What's the first thing you do when a bomb goes off? Probably some combination of running away and being utterly shocked.
Before I can touch his old kinetic, the war fighting skills. Now it's a step back from the war fighting, and now we have to interject and intermingle with the people more. We can't go in gun blazing. So this is where they're going to have to use their heads more now. When to shoot, when not to shoot. It's a two-way street now.
Time to give Mike Company its marching orders.
Okay, mission. Mike Company, combat team in partnership with the ANSF, will seize Tanachoy by no later than 1800 hours, 3rd of May, to facilitate the expansion of the Afghan Development Zone. That's the ADZ.
Translation: surround the village, link up with the Afghan National Army, then capture or kill the Taliban insurgents. For this mission, Oberwerth has given Captain Cox a leading role.
In the event that something happens to me on that first lift, he will take command of the whole force on the ground, and he's also going to be kind of the guy I lean on in the event that things do start to go a little bit sideways on the mission.
One of the trickiest challenges for Cox will be leading his platoon around a minefield in the dead of night.
Remember, that minefield's unmarked. Once they turn on, stand by for casualties. Okay?
The grids for the minefield are up here. Make sure we get those taken down, and I don't want people trudging around in the middle of the night into a minefield or a possible one. Hoorah!
Warrant Bruce Rodenizer, the platoon's second in command, has a lot more than the minefield to worry about right now. 2 of his most experienced sergeants are gone on emergency leave, and it's a bad time to be down a pair of veterans.
A lot of my command structure is gone, and it's hurting.
And it's beginning to look like it might get a whole lot worse. Captain Cox gets a phone call from his fiancée, Alexandra, back home. There are complications with the pregnancy, and she's heading to the hospital for tests. This news, with the start of the mission just hours away. The attack will be supported by chopper pilots and crew on loan from the U.S. Army. They'll fly the giant Chinook helicopters, both here and in the real theater.
You ever been in one before?
If you've never done it before, loading onto one of these beasts is dangerous. The rotors can cut a man in half, and the engine exhaust is as hot as a blast furnace.
Listen up! We're gonna board the aircraft! Make sure your muzzle's pointed down!
The troops get a practice run before they have to do it at night.
All right, basically, when you're going to come up to the aircraft, come at a 45-degree angle. Now to keep you out of the extreme heat the engines put out. The reason for the weapons down, everything that is important to our life is over our heads right now. Accidental discharge or negligent discharge, we're all dead, game over. When a ramp comes down, that's pretty much your sign to go. The longer we're on the ground, the more bullets we attract. We're allergic to bullets.
As the company makes last-minute preparations for the mission, Captain Cox is back on the phone to his fiancée. Her pregnancy is worrying the doctors.
Things aren't too good, so.
No. Bad, good, not good, or?
Yeah, bad, not good.
Okay.
So we'll see what goes on.
Cox decides there's only one thing to do. He's heading home.
Things just got to that point where he had to go home now. Like I told him, I go, family's first. Your missus and your little one is a priority. Go and be with them. Because most of these young troops all have families too. Like, family's a priority right now. Because who knows in a couple months what's going to happen.
Rhodey has now lost 2 experienced sergeants and his boss. For the rest of the training, he'll be the acting commander of 1 platoon. Sergeant Lewis will take Rhodey's place as second in command. It's a fix for now, but without its commander, the platoon is headed for trouble.
If anything else goes wrong, We're finished. We're combat ineffective.
By nightfall, Mike Company's mission to seize and liberate the village of Tanachoy will be underway. Captain John Cox, commander of 1 platoon, and a key player in Major Oberwerth's plan, had to go home. Warrant Rodenizer is now the acting platoon commander, and Sergeant Lewis has been bumped up to second in command. 1 platoon is stretched to the limit.
I've never gone fully deployed yet. Every time I think I've had my troops, I don't.
To begin the mission, the company will split in 2. Cox was supposed to lead the soldiers arriving by helicopter. Now, it will be Rhodey. Other platoons will arrive in their labs and set up a cordon around the village.
Lots of challenges in this plan. The nighttime aspect of it, while it gives us an advantage tactically, also creates an incredibly large number of potential complications.
This operation specifically is actually going to be probably the hardest operation I've ever done, just because of the way that it's running. We've got the company split up.
You hear me? No, I can't hear you, man.
We're going to be rolling into a village we've never seen, never been to. We don't know what to expect.
The whole plan will get probably screwed up, and we'll just have to fend for ourselves out there for a while. So we got to make sure we got enough. Bit of food, bit of water, lots of ammo.
In the final hours before the launch, Oberwerth announces last-minute changes to the plan, including a new landing zone for the choppers.
One of the first changes you're going to notice, LZ-1 now on the outside of the external minefield.
The helicopter's now landing at a different LZ, so now I have another minefield to contend with. Go team, go. This makes it a little bit more interesting now.
Under cover of darkness, the labs move out. The operation is underway.
All call signs, NASA have begun their move south as of 2151 hours.
Tanachoy! Woo! While the labs make their way through the night,
Okay, 1 platoon.
Rhodey leads his men onto the Chinooks. At XCON, Big Brother is watching.
We have 2 birds on the ground now. That's 1 group there, and 1 group there. I think the company commander's with this group. And here's the Zulu vehicles down here. They're coming down.
1-9er, this is 1-1. A breach has been conducted and is now secured. Over.
But there's a hitch. Remember the minefield? Well, the handheld GPS that Rhodey was relying on to steer clear of it isn't working.
Piece of I tested it before we came up and worked.
The minefield's probably no more than about 100 meters, 150 probably in front of us.
The team marches on. But Rhodey's made a bad miscalculation.
The nearest guy is, he's only 24 meters from the edge of the minefield.
Before Rhodey can correct his mistake, his West Vest sends the message. It's too late.
You dead?
I think we might have got too close to the minefield. What kind of wound does it say? Okay, critical wound, lifetime, 69 minutes.
Well, essentially, respect the lead man hit a mine.
Joe, can you crawl to me?
Dead.
You're dead?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now they have to negotiate a careful retreat.
We were good until the point where Joe hit that. So because he respects he's gone into the minefield, we're going to start prodding our way back a bit. And then you guys are going to work me back to there.
Corporal Doug Chick uses his combat knife to probe for mines.
There's no mine.
And he finds one. Unfortunately, his movement triggers it.
I'm dead. What was that, like an hour into the accident I died? That's awesome.
4 men went into the minefield. Now they're all dead or wounded, except for Corporal Panozzo.
I want you to work your way back to that knoll and then make your way back to Alpha. Okay. Report what happened. You're now the priority to get out of here. I just got killed. Holy f***. Okay, you don't have to worry. We're all dead now.
Yeah, we got 3 dead with 1 platoon. They just got a little too close.
It's up to Corporal Panozzo to report the news of what's happened. On foot. It's dawn before he finally links up with the rest of the section.
Where'd they get hit? Right over there? Yeah, we were walking straight that way, and we walked right into the minefield. Let's move up here so I can get a visual. If we actually wandered into a minefield and that actually happened in Afghanistan, it would suck, right? That would suck.
Did you guys end up all the way out here?
I don't know why we were walking for a while and then... There's no clear route to the bodies, just a clear route from where I was out.
The radio's still on Chick's back, right?
Yeah.
Losing 2 radios in the minefield is bad enough. Now they have to guard the bodies. No one gets left behind on the battlefield.
If anybody goes for the bodies, we light them up.
Meanwhile, a few kilometers away, the rest of the platoon is in a firefight with insurgents on the outskirts of Tanachoy. With so many casualties, Sergeant Lewis just keeps getting promoted. From LAV commander to second in command, and now, with Rhodey dead, he's in charge of the platoon.
I'm the man right now.
He has his hands full, and no radio to contact Major Oberworth.
Both of our dismounted radios were on the backs of the men that were in the minefield. So I've been trying to effect comms with a radio that's not meant to talk the distances we've been talking. And this radio is upsetting me.
As a last resort, Lewis sends a message to Major Oberworth by runner.
Sir! Ward 1, we've lost our radios for 1-1.
They don't work?
They're in the minefield.
Okay, get in.
Yeah.
It's been a rough night for Mike Company. And in the village, the mock Taliban fighters are planning to turn up the heat. Daybreak at the Maneuver Training Center. Outside the mock village of Tanachoy, Mike Company is preparing to attack.
This is a vehicle checkpoint, and we're setting this up to ensure that nothing comes in, nothing comes out, and that's our primary goal while the operation is going on down the road.
During the night, troops flown in by helicopter have surrounded the village, trapping a group of Taliban insurgents inside. With his boss lying dead in a minefield, Sergeant Jamie Lewis has taken command of 1 platoon.
But things are going according to plan. We're just delayed a little bit. I don't want to stand up here because I can get shot.
Mike Company troops guard the perimeter. Meanwhile, a team of specialists launches a psychological offensive.
Attention, attention! This is a message from the Afghan National Security Forces and Task Force Kandahar. Today, we will be entering your village in order to capture or kill all insurgents. I ask you by the Western Road, where we will give you our protection, food, water, and a place to rest. Manana, Tashakua.
As civilians begin to trickle out, the soldiers at the checkpoints
Stop, sir.
search them.
He's good.
Major Oberwerth's plan is to isolate the insurgents in the village and begin the siege before nightfall.
1 and Roger, are we still processing people coming out through the west, or has that ceased now? Over.
But as the day wears on, many of the civilians remain in the village, and the Afghan army won't give the okay to begin the attack. Oberwerth's boss, Lieutenant Colonel Roger Barrett, sets up a meeting with the ANA commander.
Here's the fundamental question. Do we feel that there's a need to do an action right now?
In Afghanistan, NATO troops often work in partnership with the ANA. So even though Oberwerth wants to get on with it, he has to wait for his allies.
My intent was to give it a few more hours to try and draw more civilians, more villagers out.
My big shortcoming here right now, Colonel, is becomes a sustainment piece. And while we're in a good position now, I don't know how long it'll remain tenable. In terms of crew rest, I mean, guys have pretty much been on the go since yesterday morning. And even just sustainment for the vehicles, we need to refuel within the next 6 hours.
Any more delays, and they risk running out of food, water, and fuel. That will defeat an army as effectively as the enemy. And this delay is no accident. It's a wrench the trainers have deliberately thrown into the works. Big Brother's bad guys cooked it up as a test.
I need you to call the ANA commander, right? Tell him that he will not be satisfied with any of the conditions until last light tomorrow to enter Tanachoy. That should cause a delay into the next morning, and then we'll see whether or not Mike Company brought enough rations and stuff to last 2 nights.
With resources stretched to the limit, Oberwerth consolidates his troops into a defensive position for the night. Rotating shifts guard the flanks. Mike Company settles in to wait for daylight. Dawn comes early, and no one catches more than a few hours sleep.
It's tricky to track sleep for me because I get woken up so many times normally. Like last night I was woken up once by the 2IC, once by the gunner, and once by the some guy. I'm not even sure what I told him. So
All soldiers know that on the real battlefield, fatigue is just a fact of life.
They try to give you as much rest as possible, but sometimes it's not possible to get all the rest that you would like.
3 days without sleep is the equivalent of being legally drunk. Feels like it too sometimes, without the pleasant flush.
And sleep is not the only thing lacking. Just as planned, that last-minute delay that Big Brother sprung on them has burned up their food supplies.
I'm here to get some breakfast. But apparently that's not going to happen.
Food will come later. Right now, Oberwerth finally has the green light to seize the village. And the show is about to start.
Alex, we got people coming down the road. I can't make out their status yet.
Wainwright, Alberta. After 3 days of preparation, the troops are about to launch an attack on the mock Afghan village of Tanachoy.
at 7:30 they pretty much know this is your last chance.
Major Oberwerth will help Afghan forces carry out the attack.
That is, and then it'll be mostly the commander of the ANA show.
For the training, seasoned soldiers stand in for the Afghan National Army.
We put an Afghan face on everything we do. So we've put the outer cordon in, and they're going to go into the village and
do the actual season.
Just outside the village, the Psychological Operations, or PSYOPs team goes to work. Yesterday, they broadcast a friendly invitation to the villagers. Today, they're not so nice.
We're basically going after combatants, so we can go into a little intimidation tactics and undermining their confidence in the leadership.
Giant speakers blast heavy metal music into the town.
It's not a common music in their culture, so it pumps our guys up and it freaks them right out.
It's all part of a deception ploy, a feint to divert the enemy's attention from the real attack. Within minutes, a group of locals appears on the road.
Alex, we got people coming down the road. I can't make out their status yet.
We got 4 fighting-age males come from the village.
Lasuna, Puntakra! Harakat Marwa!
They're cooperative. They seem to be surrendering.
Keep your eye on them, Palmer.
We're going to search them first.
Stop.
Make sure they are indeed clear and non-combatants.
The guy in the black keeps moving his head and looking at his chest. Turn around. See the white sticking out?
Do you see what it is?
No, I can't.
It's right off his belt. Just a tag off his belt.
Overhead, 2 CF-18 Hornets buzz the village, sending a final warning to the insurgents. A few minutes later, under Sergeant Lewis, one platoon starts maneuvering around the west side of Tanachoy.
All call signs 1-1. I don't want you to move any further east.
Open up on them, go.
On the opposite side of town, ANA troops sneak into position to jump the enemy from behind.
1 under excellent. Our deception force is now in place. They're going to continue to jock here out there for you to launch over.
Time's up for the insurgents who remain in the town. On cue, Afghan forces move in undetected from the east, and the fight is on.
One under Roger, you see launching the building off over. Shuttle 19er, we are in building a 50 Alpha Alpha over.
The battle lasts only minutes.
1 under, okay, do you know the progress of the ANA forces in the village? Have they cleared through Charlie and onto Delta over? 1-3, yes, I have from their commander that they've cleared the entire village.
All the insurgents are killed or captured by the Afghan troops. The attackers suffered some casualties, but they got the job done.
I think today went very well. Some good partnership with the Afghan National Army and good employment of our forces. We did a lot of things in the periphery of the Afghan National Army that actually helped to make this operation a success.
As the smoke clears in the village, Major Oberworth and his boss, Lieutenant Colonel Barrett, meet with the Afghan Army commanders.
What my understanding of the situation is right now is we have seized the village and we have cleared the village. We have not yet secured, but we're getting there, yes, clearly.
With the operation complete, it's time to resurrect the casualties, including Warrant Rodenizer and his men.
Yes, I'm back from the dead.
The mission hasn't been easy, but the village of Tanachoy is finally secure. Or is it? Big Brother still has one deadly trap to spring. That's next time on Combat School.